called the Franklin House, and that was just over here. There was an escaped slave. So Vermont history teachers, they teach about the Underground Railroad, and a lot of towns, they kind of hope for information where they can link the Underground Railroad to their town. So Highgate has a documented case. William Lamburn in 1841, he's an escaped slave. He's working at the original Tyler Place Hotel, which burns down. He tried to burn it down in 1841. The actual hotel was over here and burned in 1974. The other thing I want to mention is, I've talked about different hotels in class. Highgate Springs, Alberg Springs, Sheldon Springs, they get their name because out-of-staters would come up to Vermont and try to drink the water up here to try to cure cancer, to try to cure different diseases. And there used to be a spring house right over here, and that's why the original hotel was in this location. Boats would drop people off at Shipyard Bay, and then they would spend time at the hotel, and they would drink the water to get their health better. Have any of you been to Fortin's Caves? So Fortin's Caves are right across the interstate. You guys are going to have a field trip there next week or in 2 weeks. Fortin's Caves was actually advertised in statewide newspapers as a place that went along with this hotel. Did you have a question, Tom? No? All right, so we're going to get off just in like an eighth of a mile up the road here. We are going to be on private property, so I would appreciate it if the language could be under control. If you guys have your headphones on, whatever. When I try to get everybody's attention, please make sure you're listening to me. We are going to be mostly walking for this. It's a little chilly. I'll keep you moving so that nobody gets cold. Any questions right now? Some of you are probably going to be working at the Tyler Place. If you're already not working at the Tyler Place, a lot of history in this location.
And now
Hey, could be more on. I can't walk this.
hello everyone. Here we have the basketball court, and over there we have the bike shop and maintenance. We have the farm animals, Edwards Bay, Garden Library, Archery, Shotgun, Soccer Pitch, and Nature Park.
Alright, so
Oh.
the Tyler Place, if you guys aren't familiar with this, you're on the edge of what they call the Siskoy Bay. The Tyler, you notice several different cottages or accommodations. I believe the Tyler Place has 76 accommodations that they rent out to different families over a period of 15 or 16 weeks over the summer. Their opening weekend is Memorial Day weekend, and the resort that exists here today is the result of that original hotel that I was telling you about that was there in the early 1800s. So we're going to walk down towards what they used to call Lover's Lane, and that gets its name partially because of the young couples that used to vacation here, and they wanted a beautiful scenic location where they could go for romance, etc. So in a couple of other field trips, you guys are actually going to be across the interstate, and I just want to say this real quick. If you guys are at Hannaford's in Swanton, and McDonald's is on your right, Dunkin' Donuts is on your left, if you're right at the driveway, you'll notice that there's a long path with the trees that have been separated. That is the old rail line, and the rail line used to come right up here where the interstate is. The Mineral Springs that I mentioned before is probably underneath where the interstate is now. And the rail line would actually bring people from Canada or people from all across the country, and they would stop down basically where Gill's store is, and that's where they would have access to the hotels. We are going to go on more of a wooded path, and I'll give you more vacation information and more economic information, but enjoy the walk. That is actually cheaper than you can especially over by Shipyard Bay. There are some that are right on the lake route, those are more expensive. All right, so a little bit about this history. So this would be the area called Lover's Lane. The Tylers use it for the kids groups and to have cookouts. But this area here, now I don't know this. If anybody wanted to do a little bit of research, you could actually ask. The rumors are that this was actually a town dump at some point in time. back in the day, it was not uncommon for either businesses or ships or even people to bring their garbage just down to the lake and throw it in the water. I can only vouch for this because of a personal experience. I was wrestling a couple of staff members, Tyler Place staff members, in front of the kids, splashing around, getting everybody wet. Somebody gave me a backdrop where I landed in the water, and my wrist went under, and when I came up, it had been sliced. And when I looked around, there wasn't a rock down there. It was a piece of garbage. There was a piece of tin, and it was a pretty bad slice. Now, I don't know if that's just something that a Tyler Place staff member threw in there, but they've cleaned it up nicely enough where people can access this on a regular basis. Over here, that's what they call pyrox. If you guys have ever heard me talk about the search for the cannon, at some point in time over the last 200 years, there was a military ship that, or there were some guys that were crossing the ice, military guys that were crossing the ice. I think there's a cannon somewhere off of Pyrox. The far area north of Pyrox, that's Canada. That's how close we are to the Canadian border. There's a chance that that cannon's actually not there, that the information is wrong, but I think there's a cannon there. We're going to go out to this point here. That's called Lime Kiln Point. I'm going to take you up to that property, but unfortunately that's the property that we can't go on because the landowner said that we can't go on.
What if I just go on there anyways?
That would be
Well, I just go like
for you or me. So. All right, so this trail may be a little wet based on the rain the last couple of days, but it's very. I didn't raise my hand, so don't start filming.
Too late.
Are you guys the last one? That's actually called Rock Island. I just want to give you guys a couple of heads up of things that you can do as you, because this is public. Even though the Tyler Place owns all this land, you actually have access to that area out there. Even the island, the Tylers do not own that island. If you're curious and if you're adventurous and you can swim, there are actually tunnels underneath that island. You can enter on the west side, you go through about halfway, then you come out on the north side over here on the left-hand side.
Have you done it?
Yes, I've done it. A couple of other things. So, in my classroom, there are a couple of pictures of old steamships. It may sound weird to you guys, but steamships the size, what's the one that they have down at the Shelburne Museum, Ticonderoga?
Yeah.
So steamships that big actually used to come into Missisquoi Bay, and they would dock over at the Tyler Place Rock Dock. And then there was something else called smaller, where's Justin? Can you text him and tell him that we're on just off from Bandstand Island? And last year, the Tyler Place staff, they actually brought out an old cast iron propeller that is over on their waterfront. What I would love to do is I'd love to get a Vermont history class or a local history class actually on a boat, and you guys could take a look at that area. We could either go look for the cannon a little bit further north, or we could look for, maybe we get some divers, I've done that sort of thing before, and actually look for the remains of those shipwrecks.
You want to take a look at my shoes? Not. Well, now take a look at yours. Wow.
It's freezing out here.
Why can't we do?
Don't put it in your face. Don't put it in your face. That's what I thought. Don't be stupid.
Oh, it doesn't illness, but it's nothing that bad.
Okay, folks, if I can have your attention, please. So, when I was a Tyler Place counselor, you guys went into these lean-tos. So the lean-tos are actually meant for your age group. The Tyler Place families, they just don't have the little kids. Sometimes they come up with their teenagers. And they have the teenagers spend a night out here with 2 or 3 counselors. And one of the things that I did with my warped sense of humor, because I was director of the kids programs and I could do this, I thought it would be funny. I wrote a journal over a couple of days, and that journal started as though the person was escaping a prison in Quebec in March and April. And they were on foot coming south, and I wrote journal entries in March, April, and May. And the Tyler Place opens in early May. And the journal entries, as I got more to the present, I had the guy actually start describing this area and start describing the lean-tos and saying that, oh, he's very happy to be out of prison. And then I left the journal here for the teenagers to find. And the last journal entry is, oh my God, the teenagers are coming, I gotta go into the woods. And then some of the teenagers, they were so freaked out that they told the Tyler Place that they didn't want to come back. And I felt really, really bad about it, but it was so funny at the time. Like the staff was like, yeah, what is it? All right, the property that we can't go on is down here, but I want to show you it, and then we'll head back to the
Hell yeah.
If you're looking at this old field, you were allowed into the field. So this is the area, this is the property where we are not allowed to go. Tyler's own this right of way. They do not own. Lime Kiln Point is right over here. So if you take a look at where the tree is, you can see where the ground is a little bit elevated. If you take a look at where that tree is over there, you can see where the ground is a little bit elevated. If you look on old maps of Missisquoi Bay, there were actually 5 or 6 houses and business buildings associated with the lime kilns. So in a couple future classes, we're going to go to Fortin's Quarry. There's another quarry over here, and then there was another quarry over here. There actually used to be large canal boats that went into Missisquoi Bay. They would harvest the rock, and it's sort of like an early form of cement, and they would sell it to New England communities. I know a lot of us think that we're raised in the middle of Redneckville, but it's kind of neat to think that even in an area like this, that there was economic activity where ships from out of state would come. I'd love to be able to butter up to the guy and get you guys on my property because it's kind of neat over there. So the other thing I want to mention is that railroad line that I mentioned went north-south. So where Justin is standing and where the girls are standing, that road right there that we're about to go on, that is an old railroad bed. They actually used to, when the railroad finally went in 1868, it was not, it was still cheap for them to send boats into the Missisquoi Bay, but it was cheaper for them to harvest here and then run it on the railroad line east-west over to where the interstate is. It's called Lime Kiln Point on old maps, and it's just neat to think of how the economy has changed. Okay, so we're going to walk on the old railroad bed now, and if you look on either side of the path, I've never been able to see any, but see if you can find any old railroad tiles.